Prime Minister, you've succeeded in losing 4 votes in 2 days. That's more than most Prime Ministers lose in a career of years. You might as well pack it all in.
Well, actually, it's been a very good day. If you look at what we did today, we had a huge spending round announcement. Sajid Javid, the Chancellor, set out the biggest package of spending since, I think, 2002, which is the moment when the Blair government really decided to start investing in hospitals and schools, and we're doing the same. Big package for hospitals, 20,000 police on the street, as you know, levelling up education funding across the country. Those are for every primary, every secondary school. I think those are the priorities of the British people, and we're delivering on them here in Parliament. Yes, I can, before you interrupt me, it is absolutely true that Brexit continues to obsess our beloved colleagues, and we've got the most peculiar situation tonight, which is that I think for the first time in democratic history, first time in the history of this country, the leader of the opposition has actually declined the offer of a general election, and that's what he's paid to do. That's what the opposition is meant to do. They're meant to contest elections against the government. I can only speculate as to why he has chosen not to have a general election. The reason I don't want one particularly, let me explain, I don't want a general election at all.
But you need one. You can't govern. If you lose 4 votes in 2 days, you need a general election.
The truth is that we've had our chance to get a deal in Brussels on Brexit really badly damaged, if not totally wrecked, by the surrender bill.
But why does a senior colleague, actually former senior colleague like Philip Hammond, just say you're straightforwardly wrong about that? Well, that your negotiating position hasn't suffered at all.
Well, it's unfortunately it totally wrecks it, because what it does, if you read the bill, what it does, the thing that was passed today, is it compels me as Prime Minister to write a letter. In fact, it sets out, it writes the letter for me that I have to send to Brussels. I just have to add my signature saying I request an extension to stay in the EU. And it then gives the EU the power to decide how long the UK must remain in the EU. Now that's a quite incredible thing.
But you yourself say you don't want a no deal Brexit. You'd much rather get a deal.
Absolutely.
Your own Attorney General said to you, if you insist on taking out the backstop, it is no deal. So your own Attorney General is wrong, is he?
Well, you were at Biarritz and you've been seeing what's been happening, Robert, over the last few weeks. Actually, we've been making a huge amount of progress in other European capitals. And the fascinating thing is that whereas at the beginning of August, everybody said across the EU that you couldn't change one dot or comma of the withdrawal agreement, I think all the other 27 basically accept that it has to be changed. The question is how. And what we've been getting across to colleagues is that there are 2 broad areas of discussion, and they involve, the facilitations that you need to check things away from the Northern Irish border, to control goods flowing from Northern Ireland to the Republic, but away from, and vice versa, but away from the border. Then there's a more conceptual approach, which involves trying to look at the economic unity of the island of Ireland, whilst allowing the whole UK, complete with Northern Ireland, politically and economically, to come out of the EU. Now that is the way forward. What's sad about what's happened in the last few days is that our chance to make a huge amount of progress, come out of the so-called backstop, the thing that keeps us in the EU's legal order, makes sure that we have to accept the way the EU runs our trade policy, that arrangement we can come out of if I'm given the chance to get a deal. Now, I will get a deal. But I've got
to ask you a couple of quick questions on that, though. Let's give you the benefit of the doubt and say you get a deal. Now, some of your Brexiter MPs say they want more than just removing the backstop,
Well,
and they couldn't vote for a Brexit deal that was simply Mrs May's deal minus the backstop.
Understood.
But I need to ask you, because there's a parity issue here. If they vote against a deal that you are recommending, will you expel them from the party in the way that you expelled some Remainers from the party last night?
Well, a couple of quick points. The first is that we're not just asking for the. The whole withdrawal bill is a bad withdrawal act, the withdrawal treaty, I should say, as signed by the previous, is a terrible treaty. The way to cure it is to get rid of the backstop, but you also have to change the political declaration. You have to rewrite that. Now, if you do that,
there is this parity issue. If you recommend a deal and some of your colleagues won't back it, will they be expelled in the way that Ken Clarke and Nicholas Soames were expelled last night?
Sure. I think what the people of this country want to see is a government that is determined to come out of the EU on October the 31st, and that is what we are going to do.
But you haven't answered my question.
What sauce
are you going
for the goose is sauce for the gander? That's what I've said to all colleagues, and I think I said it.
So that means a Steve Baker would be out of the party if he can't.
I think colleagues are going to find that the deal we get is extremely good. I think you're going to find that people will instinctively want to vote for it because it gets us out of the EU. And the real issue now is who is going to get that deal and who can be relied on to secure an exit from the EU. And I'm afraid what we've heard from the leader of the opposition today is not only does he want to cancel the referendum, and not only does he want to extend the UK's membership of the EU at the behest of the EU, giving that power to keep us in potentially for years and years at their own discretion, but also he now refuses, contrary to what I think is the constitutional duty of a leader of the opposition, he refuses to take part in a general election. And I don't think I've never known a time in modern history when the leader of the opposition has refused to participate in an election. I can only invite our viewers, Robert, to speculate as to why he may be so disinclined. Does somebody need to get out the chicken suit? That is my question.
I think the chicken suit's for another day, because I've got another two very, very quick questions. I know we're almost out of time. One is, are you confident that you will get your general election before the EU Council?
On that, I mean, back to where we were, I think that the Labour Party and indeed the Scottish Nationalists, who also seem to be against trusting the people with an election, I think they're going to find themselves steadily in an unsustainable...
Because you can't enjoy not having the numbers to do anything. Are you going to be a permanent lame duck? We've talked about chickens. Are you going to be a permanent lame duck, or will you get your general election?
I think that the position of the Labour Party, to be so consumed by cowardice as to resist a general election, is not politically sustainable.
And then very finally...
That's my view.
A Brexiter, Sir Edward Lee, said today he's deeply uncomfortable with what he called the purging of colleagues. I mean, Ken Clarke, probably the best known, certainly the longest serving Tory MP, held a whole variety of cabinet posts. Nicholas, you wrote a biography of Winston Churchill. He was his grandfather. Most people think there is something spectacularly odd about...
Well, I think what most...
about distinguished Tories like that being thrown out.
Yeah, and look, I mean, these are friends of mine, and believe me, I take absolutely no joy in any of it. But it was very sad and surprising that they should choose to undermine the UK's ability to get a deal. Because that's what it does. That's what it does. And I think what the country wants to see is clarity and determination in coming out of the EU on October the 31st. And alas, for those colleagues who had plenty of warning and explication about what we want, they were, I'm afraid, backing a bill, the surrender bill, that effectively frustrates Brexit. And we made it very clear to them, what the consequences would
But
be.
it is
So
a
I'm very,
new
I'm
kind
very,
of,
very.
but you are running a new kind of Tory party, aren't you?
No, not at all.
This is
It's
unprecedented.
No, it's just that we have a clear mandate from the people to deliver Brexit, and that, I'm afraid, Parliament has refused to honour that for more than 3 years. So we've got to get it done.
Prime Minister, good to see you.
Thank you.